The Mix 88.5 Property Update, brought to you by the award-winning Tudor Group, developers of Tudor Villas and in the final stages of Tudor Court Condominium, Pratham Nack Soi 2. The Tudor Group, Thai lifestyle, European standards.
Welcome to this week's Property Update at Mix 88.5 here on PMTV with my guest as always in the studio, Tim Gladwin from Salmons, Thailand.
The Mix 88.5.
And good afternoon and welcome to our Property Update. It's a Wednesday. As always, our guest in the studio from Salmons, Thailand is Tim Gladwin. Afternoon, Tim.
Afternoon, Russell.
If you want to get hold of Tim and some of the things we talk about through today's programme or any of the others, 038 252 588 is the telephone number. patty@salmonsthailand.com is the email address, and of course salmonsthailand.com for the website. So it's been another busy week, has it?
It has, yeah. Particularly personally, although to some extent at least that's been caused by a bit of a staff shortage at our place. We've had one girl off with on maternity leave, and another had a bit of a freak accident, falling over and hurting her back very badly, so she's off work for a few months. And actually it's been less than straightforward finding new staff at the moment.
I think that's always been a hard thing, finding that I think it's easy to find staff. It's not easy to find the right staff.
Yeah, it's true. Although this time we've done what we normally do, and there's been few applications have been few and far between. A few foreigners, but we don't really want a foreigner. We're looking for English-speaking Thai staff, ideally with their own car, because obviously when you're working in real estate, you do really need the ability to get out and about. And although we do have a company car, it's ideal if the person has their own and they're more mobile than they would be otherwise. And certainly if there's any English-speaking Thai staff out there, ideally with a bit of real estate experience, but not strictly necessary, then we'd be happy to hear from them.
Okay, 038 252 588 is the phone number for the office. Just get hold of Tim and say, yes, me, I want the job and I've got a car and I know nothing about real estate.
But they can learn. And
they can learn, all right.
And the truth is that, you know, you can deal with, we have obviously staff in the office, they can come in, we can talk through inquiries with people, we can advise them on what's suitable, what isn't. We can answer queries on email, telephone, whatever, and then obviously we can lead the new staff member into taking people out. So as they take people out, they're told where to go, and they can find out about the market that way. So, you know, previous experience is helpful, but it really isn't necessary, and it's more about a person being a people person, someone who can speak to people, get along with people, and if you can do that, you can learn the other stuff, and the knowledge is already there in the office.
It's just a bit of homework, isn't it? If you're going to go out somewhere, you need to know what you're going to show and how it all works.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that hard, because particularly if you're working with experienced staff, you know, like I say, there's plenty of people in the office who can tell the customers about the places they're going to see, what the benefits are, what the detriments are, so on and so forth. The plus points about the location, they can listen to their requirements and advise them what areas, what kind of properties would suit them best. So all that advice can already be done. The new staff member would obviously be present and would learn that kind of information, that kind of knowledge over a period of weeks, months, and in some cases years.
But hopefully not years.
You know, there's discrete bits of information that obviously do tend to come more slowly. The mainstream stuff can come relatively quickly, 2 or 3 months, and most people have a fairly good idea of what's going on. But you know, you do get customers who are looking for very good, accurate, and detailed advice. Yeah. And in some of those cases, you do need years of experience to be able to advise them properly and effectively. And that becomes evident when you hear what some people are told by some of the people operating town. And it's not just inaccurate; it's absolutely and utterly wrong. I mean, it's, you know, it couldn't be more wrong if you tried to lie or you know, tell someone something that was designed to be misleading. I mean, some people just don't seem to have an idea, and instead of saying they don't know, they feel it's better to keep talking and come up with something. And some of the stuff we hear is, it just has no basis in fact at all.
Good stuff. We like that. But basically, if this person, if you got someone to come along and join the business without actually knowing anything about the real estate market beforehand, they could end up with a nice little career.
Yeah, absolutely right. No, there's massive scope for them to learn, and obviously the real estate market here is a big part of this city. So once you get a grounding in real estate, there's a good career to be had both with a company, whether you branch out on your own or you go and work for a developer. Lots of opportunities, yeah.
Okay. Apart from that and the staff problems, high season is still ticking along normal and doing anything. Got some application already?
Yes, no, it's things are going along reasonably well. As I've said on a few occasions this year already, given the amount of people in town, and when I speak to hotel owners, they continue to tell me that they're running at pretty much 100% occupancy, if not 100%, pretty close. You know, the hotel side of things, the city is very, very busy.
Yeah.
I would have anticipated that, given that is the case, the market might be a bit busier. The real estate market might be a bit busier, particularly bearing in mind how good things were the last 3 months of 2011. But they are a little bit slower than I'd have anticipated, and I keep saying I don't anticipate this is a big problem. I don't think it's a big issue. I think the more important things to look at when you're looking at the big picture, at the long-term performance of the city, is the ever-increasing interest from commercial investors, the tourist numbers of people that are actually here, the numbers of people that continue to come here to live, retire, whatever it might be. You know, all these indicators are positive. The fact that the market, for secondary market properties at least, is a little bit slow right now I don't think it's anything really to worry about. And certainly when you look at the market overall, obviously off-plan condo sales continue to be very, very strong indeed.
So there's plenty of people buying off-plan and getting those condos before they get built. What do you think is the main problem why people are not buying or maybe not interested in secondary properties?
Well, I think there's a combination of factors. You know, I think three of the main factors are probably, firstly, that the pre-existing property in Pattaya, the property that's built and now for sale, doesn't necessarily fit the requirements of those people currently buying. You know, the new developments, a lot of new developments are very flash, lovely, really quite spectacular outside areas, big, huge lagoons, swimming pools, palm trees, beaches, wave pools, all this sorts of stuff. And you can understand why that's attractive. And, and obviously some of the old developments simply don't have that. So I think that's probably one thing. And that's particularly relevant given that I think quite a lot of the buyers right now are tourists, people who are here for a few weeks, maybe a few months, and obviously people
that's the sort of place you want. If you're going to be a tourist just for a little bit of time, you want one with a great outdoors and loads of lagoons and pools and water and trees and kids playing areas. Yeah,
I think that's exactly right. And it's got to be an easier sell to sell that kind of picture, particularly when there's nothing there to look at the rough edges that may in due course exist. You're looking at beautiful artist renderings and it looks very, very, very nice. Places that have already been built for a few years and might be good value and are already there, they maybe not quite so appealing to those kind of buyers, those tourist holidaymaker type of buyers. And I think the third reason, and this is actually quite a significant one, is that a lot of agents nowadays they just don't try to sell secondary market properties. The vast majority of agents in this town have very few listings of secondary market properties. You know, these are the new agents, haven't been around long, but the ones that sometimes set up shop, for example, in the shopping malls and so forth. And all they try to do is sell the developments from those developers in town who pay the best commission.
Is that because it's just easy? Because they could then just sit there. They don't have to actually go and show a property because there's no property to show yet. So it's just a case of look at my TV screen, have a look at the brochure, and buy.
Oh, it's very easy because all they actually have to do is register the clients, hand them over to the developer, and the developer will then do all the work. Like you say, that you're not taking them around town to look at various different buildings that exist. And of course, they also don't have to spend the time, energy, and effort, very significant time, energy, and effort involved in going out, taking photos, taking listings, speaking to owners, advising them on price, all that sort of thing. All they're doing is taking big, healthy commissions for passing people on to developers, and it's easy business.
Just a shop front.
But it is. That's exactly right, and it's very, very easy for them to do that. But of course, from the perspective of the buyer is only seeing a proportion of the market. And he's probably talking to someone who doesn't have a long and significant grounding in the market and understands how the market works and what the future prospects of a development would be. So actually, my own belief is that buyers would be far better off going to see an agent who does have the secondary market listings, even if they're going to buy something new in the end, they can look at the secondary market properties, see if there is anything, and there may well be, because there's some amazing offers on that are around right now. But even if they buy something new, the more experienced agent who's been around longer and thus has all the secondary market listings, they know the market better. They know the city better. They know which areas are good, which areas are bad, why they're good, why they're bad, what areas are going to be good in the future, whether to buy in this development or another development. If you want to be advised well, then obviously there's a big upside to going to someone with the most experience who can advise you about things that a less experienced agent simply might not know or understand, or in some cases even care.
Yeah. I can imagine how it's got to be difficult if you're on the secondary market. I did have a friend the other day that said he's got his house up for sale, but it's hard work trying to sell it, and there's not much interest. Even if he drops the prices, there's still not much interest there. I suppose if you walk into the likes of Central or somewhere similar, all you are going to see is those new developments. And if it's not this particular one, it's probably the one next to it or the one next to that. And those are the ones you're going to see. So is your view of the property market a bit obscured?
No doubt. In my opinion. I mean, I think if you're going to buy property here, it may well be that you end up buying a new property with those lovely swimming pools or palm trees or beaches or whatever it might be that appeals to you. But unless you look at the whole market first, it may be that you're overpaying. It may be that you're buying in the wrong location. It may be that a condo that already exists would suit you far better. Obviously, there's a big debate whether to buy new off-plan or whether to buy a secondary market unit. Some people will say, well, I'm not buying anything off-plan because nothing exists, and if anything goes wrong or the economy falls down, then maybe my condo doesn't even ever get built. Whereas if you're buying something that already exists, obviously, when you pay your money, you get the title deed, and that sort of risk doesn't even exist. And some people are very concerned by that. Other people want to buy as soon as a project is launched because they get the lowest possible price and obviously the best value possible, assuming, of course, that the economy doesn't crash and the building is built as...
But a lot of those people are then just going to try and sell it on rather than have it for use themselves.
So, some people do, I mean, there's obviously a mix. One rule doesn't categorize everybody, but obviously there are upsides and there are downsides, and like I say, it's a debate, and one might say that in tough economic times, and I'm not saying that in the property market, particularly the new build property market, we're in tough times at the moment. Quite the opposite, in fact. It's booming, but there is always that potential, whether it's new political issues or the global economic crisis getting worse or whatever it might be. There is some risk there. However big that risk, well, it depends on a number of factors. Who are you buying from? How do they operate? Is the project bank financed? Lots of queries like that can affect the risk, but nevertheless, irrespective of what anyone says, there is an element of risk if you're buying something that isn't yet built, because as we learned over the last 3 or 4 years, things can happen in the world that are not expected, and if people who have money in banks lose some of that money, as I think happened with some of the Icelandic banks, well, I don't think we would have believed that could have happened 10, 15 years ago.
Well, at the end of the day, if you're buying something that doesn't actually exist yet, you are, whatever you want to say, you are an investor.
Yes, you are.
And investments do go up and down with time. So
there's a risk. I mean, there's also an upside, of course. You can't just look at one side of the coin, because if you do buy early and you get the lowest price and it's built, then the chances are you'll make a nice, in some cases, quite significant profit on what you've bought. And a lot of people have made a lot of money here in Pattaya from doing exactly that. So I certainly don't want to undervalue or write it off. And I myself, as you know, I've bought a couple of properties off plan recently. And I think if you make the right decision, my own opinion is that it's a good time to do it, and there's some very good buyers out there. But it's sensible to take good advice before doing so. It's not as simple as just going along, buying the first condo you see off plan and making money. Because knowledge and research, due diligence, those sorts of things are very, very important.
And have a look around, and maybe you'll look at Tudor Court and find out that the double walls and the insulation and the electrical builds to European standards and all those sort of things are something that attracts you rather more than it does a huge lagoon swimming pool.
Absolutely, and it does. For some people that sort of thing is, and justifiably, very important. The other thing about somewhere like Tudor Court, of course, is that it's pretty much built. So even if you're buying now, you're buying a new project and you can't have it straight away. I think you will be able to move in, I think, a
couple of months.
July.
Yeah.
And let's face it, if it's 90% complete, the risk that we were talking about is vastly reduced when you compared to looking at a building that hasn't even upon which work hasn't even started as yet.
Yeah, I suppose if it's 90% completed, you could do the extra 10% yourself. A trowel and a little bit of wiring.
You're going to get something, aren't you? And it's something that's virtually complete. So, like I say, the risk is vastly reduced.
And speaking of almost completed and done, I believe that the showrooms are opening on site on April the 6th. There's going to be a little bit of a party. Stay tuned to the property update to find out more details about that. That's Tudor Court on Prattam Knack Soy 2. April 6th, they are opening for views. And that offer is still on that we talked about, was that a month or so ago, about the down payment of 50% and over the next couple of years, rented out. The developer will take that as your remaining 50% of payment. And Bob's your uncle. You've got a nice little place for a lot less than you were originally going to invest, and obviously worth a lot more than your original 50% that you've paid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, a quick look at the market on the finance things this week. I believe there's not much changes in most of it. 1.5 million baht invested these days if you're going to go and put your money down at Tudor Court. In US dollars, it's 48,867. If you're doing it in pounds sterling, it's 31,159. And in euro, it's 37,419, which is not a lot of money when you're looking at the UK market and trying to invest in something there. Your garden shed is 30 grand these days, so not bad. Money-wise, your exchange rates. I did see some startling news yesterday. I was in the bank and it said 46 to the pound.
Is that right?
But I don't have that figure. I still have 48.3 last week, 48.1 this week. So it doesn't seem as bad as that. But I was a bit shocked. I saw the bank.
Yeah, I mean, I guess these are mid-market rates. And obviously when you're a bank, you've got a buy and a sell rate. And there's often quite a bit of difference between the two. And one would anticipate that the 46 was the buy rate.
Yes, and bye-bye with my concern. US dollar is still at the 30 mark, not much change there. The euro has dropped a little bit, and the Aussie dollar also dropped a little bit in this week's figures. So not too much movement in the stakes of changing our money, putting it backwards and forwards, or selling your property at a reasonable price and garnering back all your profits back into another country, if that's the thing. But that was something we've still talked about, and I think it's sort of standing there now, isn't it? It's not going to go back up to the 70 mark for a pound.
Not in the foreseeable future.
Okay, that's it for this week. We'll keep our property of the week for next week and have a look at that, which is another large condo. I do like the large condos.
Yeah, it's lovely. On Jomtien Beach, 179 square metres, huge balcony, and all for 5.8 million baht. In a foreign name too.
Good stuff. We'll go into that next week and give you more details on that. And see you same time, same place for another edition of the Property Update. As always, Tim, thanks very much.
Thank you, Russ.
And if you want to get hold of Tim, or you fancy going to work for Tim, 038 252 588 is the number.
To find out more about what's going on and get a hold of Tim, patia@salmansthailand.com is the email address. Other than that, we'll see you same time, same place next week.
The Mix 88.5 Property Update, brought to you by the award-winning Tudor Group, developers of Tudor villas and in the final stages of Tudor Court Condominium, Prattam Knack Soy 2. The Tudor Group, Thai lifestyle, European standards.